Shabbat Shalom. Chag Sameach. In honor of the holiday of Shavuot, a harvest festival, that's also known as Yom HaBikurim, the day of the first fruits, I thought I would tell you my own tale of farming woe. This is an ongoing, current-day saga. It started a couple months ago when an afternoon came. If you've been there, you know what I'm talking about. I just had to kill some time with my toddler. So I filled some pots with some dirt. I let him sprinkle some seeds we had, let him do whatever he wanted, fairly willy-nilly. What did I care? It's not like they were going to grow. We got messy watering them. A good time was had by all, and I promptly forgot about them. I'm not a bad person, for the record, or even a bad gardener. I've kept potted trees and flowers alive for years. I've survived 3 different homes with me. I have a pretty green thumb, I think. I just, I've been busy with some stuff, okay? So I forgot about those pots of dirt sitting outside my door. So imagine my surprise. A few, days, weeks. I wasn't keeping track. I wasn't lying. A few days or weeks later, when I saw this fine carpet of green shoots over every single pot. And I thought, well, dang it. Because, of course, my son was very excited. He said, Ema, they're growing. And I go, oh, yeah, that's awesome. They're growing. I really didn't think they would. That was a responsibility I was not anticipating. So, of course, we had to keep watering them. And I had an extra set of responsibilities every day, especially as the weather's grown warmer. I begrudgingly was out there watering our little homestead. I used an app. Technology's amazing. I used an app to actually identify what all we had growing, because like I said, I didn't even keep track. There were a few different plants, vegetables. The most impressive was the cucumber plant. This one grew taller and taller, had these really big leaves, massive, very pretty yellow flowers. And I was feeling pretty good about this. Okay, all I have to do is water it and walk away. That's great, until disaster struck. Because one of those pretty little leaves started sporting these big white spots. Technology to the rescue again. I Googled it. And apparently, our little cucumber plant had a disease. Powdery mildew. This is a thing, the internet's diagnosis. So this is decision time for me, because apparently if you don't treat powdery mildew in cucumbers, it spreads over the whole plant and can take the whole thing down. And if we're being honest, part of me, a not small part, wanted to just let it go quiet into that good night. And explain to my 4-year-old, oh my gosh, Dave, the plant got sick. Oh, that's really sad. I know. Yeah, me too. Because then I wouldn't have to water it anymore, wouldn't have to move it in or out of the sun. But then I felt bad. The poor plant was just minding his own business, just trying to grow, when apparently somebody's overzealous watering created the perfect conditions for mildew to grow. So, of course, to the internet, once again, we went, found some homegrown kind of concoction. You had to find all the parts for it, though. We had to dig them up, mix it all together, and find a spray bottle and clean that out. And then every day, spritz the plant, David's favorite part. Crisis averted. And then I noticed these little tendrils, just growing out of little tendrils. And at first, I thought nothing of it. I thought, that's good. It's growing, right? That's a positive thing. But they grew longer and longer, and they started curling, and I noticed grabbing onto things. So you can guess where I went next. The internet, which is where I learned that there are 2 kinds of cucumber plants: bush cucumbers, which is what I thought I had, and vining cucumbers, which is what we actually had. As the name implies, they have vines with a surprisingly strong grip, and the plant's not that bright, it just grabs onto whatever. Table legs, its own pot, its own flowers even. Just trying to strengthen and steady itself as it grows to get ready to make cucumbers. According to the internet, you can let the vine creep along the ground, but you risk rot setting into your cucumbers. But no worries, you just have to plant them with a trellis. I was incredulous. I had moved past, passively letting nature take its course. So I wasn't going to try to, let it go. But a trellis? Come on, it's a step too far. I have a full-time job already. I'm a single mom. I'm not going to be a farmer on top of all of that. So naturally, I went to Lowe's, and I bought some steaks with some rings built in, and I put them in the pot, and I set to work meticulously, gently, individually detangling the tendrils from all the places it attached itself to, and put them on the little rings and the steaks. As of this writing, some creature has torn through the beet seedlings, took out half of them. I had a tiny little pond of cilantro that had ice dumped in it, and that did it in. There's some carrots. They're doing actually pretty well, but they're so incredibly overcrowded that I pulled one up by accident, and it looks like doll food. So I'm going to call that one a draw, though. I'm calling that one a draw. So far, our tenacious little cucumber plant that David pesters me to water every single time he's outside, that still tries to strangle its own dang flowers with its vines, that I never, for one moment, wanted to actually have, it has one. One little baby, sort of proto-cucumber, mostly still covered in spikes, but it is resolutely trying to grow, despite mine and nature's best efforts. And I'll tell you what, if the possums or the raccoons or the squirrels or whatever's eating the rest of that stuff gets to that tiny cucumber first, I'm going to be furious. Like I said at the start, I'm not totally divorced from, loving the earth. I've always loved having plants around. I'm pretty good at keeping them alive too. But my life's pretty busy, and I prefer the self-sustaining the ones that, God waters for me when it rains. So taking care of vegetable plants from seeds is a whole other level of intensity. From physical to time, they need a lot out of you. And I'm not going to lie and say, oh, but once I got started, it was so easy, everyone should do it. What I will say is this: I understand why we have a whole holiday dedicated to it. Yom HaBikurim, the day of the first fruits, or as it's also known, Shavuot. Yes, Shavuot's the holiday of all-night Torah study, sure, but that's actually a much later addition. The Torah never says that's why we have the holiday of Shavuot in the first place. The Torah says that there's 3 pilgrimage holidays. You got to go to Jerusalem: Sukkot, Pesach, Shavuot. The last of which, the purpose was to mark the end of the counting for the grain harvest, and for the first fruits. You grew that season, you bring them to Jerusalem. Chag HaKatzir B'churei Ma'asecha, the Torah tells us, the feast of the harvest, the first fruits of your labor, which you sowed in the field. Those aren't for you to eat, but instead, you leave them at the temple as a korban, an offering to God. Now, I've always known that, and I always thought it was kind of a raw deal. Frankly, you work so hard to create something living. That's what you're doing, right? When you garden, when you farm. Take a seed, and you tend it, and you water it, not too much. You watch for pests and pestilence, and then a minor miracle. And from that little seed comes food. Farming, and I guess babies, is the closest we human beings come to being godlike in creation. That's amazing. And we're supposed to take those first fruits that we have lovingly cultivated, cart it all the way to Jerusalem, and leave it in the temple as a sacrifice to God? But having grown produce from seeds, I get it now. When I proudly look out at my very tiny vegetable garden that started, honestly, as a project to keep my toddler occupied. I don't just see a cucumber plant or a carrot plant. I see many, many choices that had to be made to keep going with this project. Every day, that choice is being made to learn new information and flexibility. It takes so much flexibility in dealing with these new situations as they arose. I see all the time it took, all the effort, and beyond all of that. It took water and earth and sun, and that's not stuff I control. It took the ingenuity of strangers on the internet sharing everything they know. This is a group project, everybody. So when that effort pays off and the produce is here, I can't just gobble it down, that first piece. out of gratitude for all it took to get there, and now you know it took a lot. That first cucumber isn't mine to eat. It belongs to so many. I can't keep it for myself. And I would gladly offer it to God if I had such an opportunity out of pure gratitude. And what an example for my son, who's really been with me every step of the way. In an age when instant gratification becomes more and more instant by the nanosecond for us all. And we are all so used to getting what we want when we want it, and busy to boot. Farming in general, and Shavuot specifically, is an astounding reminder that there is something holy about the long slog. And as much as we might try to fight it, it remains true. The best things in life, the best things, require effort. Choosing to make an effort over and over and getting help from a variety of places. But when we make the time and put in the effort, the reward is so, so worth it. Shabbat Shalom. Chag Sameach.
Thank you, Rabbi, for reminding us in a beautiful way how fortunate we are to have food and enough food for all of us to eat any day that we want. In this holiday of harvest, which we celebrate, Shavuot, we truly have a lot to be thankful for.